Ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the SimRacing Expo 2022. I've got the privilege now of being joined by, well, the man responsible for all of this. It's Marc Hennerici. We're going to have a little one-to-one. We're going to sit down and chat and just talk about this, this beautiful thing we call an expo. Just take a seat here. Perfect. Well, first of all, an absolute pleasure to meet you. Hopefully you're well.
Thank you. Same to me. Hello.
And yeah, basically, let's just riff. Let's talk about the brainchild that is the ADAC 2022 SimRacing Expo. Where did it begin? What made you have this idea? And how proud of you to see it be this big in 2022?
Yeah, it's unbelievable to sit here and to see that Cubeddu did such a great job to develop the whole brand. And when I remember when it started in 2014, I can say it was a real adventure. At the time, you know, we had only a few exhibitors, and one community came up only with a couch in the booth. But the real success in the first year was that the members, that the community, that the teams came together and they had a big party. Because, you know, they only know each other from Discord, from TeamSpeak back to that time. And then you have the chance to see the persons you share your hobby with in person. And it was a 4-day party all along. And all the years we saw exactly that the people were enjoying their time together at the SimRacing Expo, at a good platform. And the second success in the first year already has been that the competition was really good. It was the ADAC SimRacing Trophy with Tim Heinemann as a winner. And we saw that Tim Heinemann now got a GT4 Germany champion, DTM Trophy champion, now sitting in a GT3 car. And that makes me a little bit proud that those guys back to that time are sitting in a real race car today.
He actually just won a GT Sport sim racing trophy last week. He's back to sim racing. Who would have thought it? Like Tim Heinemann, just an absolute legend at this point. He's doing really, really well for himself. So where did the concept come from? You know, you must have just been sat there one day going, do you know what? We're going to have an exhibition. It's all about sim racing. Everyone's going to have a laugh. We're all going to have beers. But what made you think of this?
Well, you know, I started sim racing when I was 9 years old in 1991, when Grand Prix 1 from Microprose came up.
Wow.
And I started 3 years earlier with karting with 6 years, so a real motorsport started before. And always been to sim racing. It not has been called sim racing back to that time. Still was gaming. But then at the beginning of 2002, I came back to sim racing and organized as a student and a professional racing drivers events at the Nürburgring. And we had Adrian Sutil back there. We had Nico Hülkenberg involved and all those guys. But I did it as a student. And I thought, okay, you're a professional racing driver and you have to finish your university, so you can't do that anymore, that organization of those events. And in 2011, still being a professional racing driver, I got the offer from the ADAC to come there as the head of sport. And I said, okay, with all those organizational power, and now I have the chance to get back to sim racing and create something big. And I had to do a lot of convincement back in that time, because most of the people thought, okay, it's still gaming, maybe a marketing tool, but definitely no sport. And then we started and made all the way. And the early years was really a big adventure. But then starting the collaboration with Cubeddu, we took the whole thing to a new level. And I can say really personally to Michael Wamser, to the CEO, that I'm really thankful to see all this today coming together here in Nuremberg this weekend.
You pointed out there quite rightly, it's a perfect marketing opportunity for people, but you kind of almost bypassed that. What was your objective? What did you see this being? To be honest, from your first answer, it was a few beers with the boys, but now look at it. What's your objective of it now?
Well, first of all, I love if it's growing, but we see that especially for the teams, for the motorsport teams, you know, if you have those events on site at the racetrack, they don't have the time on a racing weekend to take care for other issues and for other ideas. And I think it's ideal, really ideal, that the SimRacing Expo is now in the off-season of the real motorsport, that all the teams can get here, the drivers can get here and see how professional sim racing is getting. Okay, all the young drivers, you don't have to tell them. They know exactly. But also the older ones, they're getting now back to sim racing, or the first time to sim racing, just to pursue their passion. because it's the same like me. I'm not driving races since 3 years, but I did a lot of sim racing. I go to the next room. Officially, it's called my office, but if you look into, there's not a desk, there's only a simulator, and I can still be a racing driver, and that's a perfect thing.
Yeah, obviously a little bit older now than when you came up with the idea, and you just spoke about the younger drivers. Is there still fire in your belly to compete? Is there still fire in your belly to get those faster times?
Well, to be honest, I wouldn't go into the simulator just to do hot laps, because after 34 years of motorsport, the driving itself, well, but the competition, that's what I'm looking for, and I still feel like a young racing driver. Last year I get in iRacing into an official race, and suddenly being with Fernando Alonso and Antonio Felix da Costa, and I felt my heart like 177 rate. I said, hey, come on, you're doing motorsport for decades, and relax, it's just a virtual thing. But it was really unbelievable experience. And and I think the competition is what it's all about. Yeah,
I agree. On iRacing specifically, you can end up racing against the likes of Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso now as well. I was actually speaking to Olli Pakala yesterday, who raced alongside Rubens Barrichello and Fernando Alonso in a 24-hour race, which is
Daytona last year.
Yeah, but it's just remarkable that that's a thing. And you had the foresight to create something like this, where we could showcase those talents and showcase those skill sets. And we've got Mike Rockenfeller, who's here this weekend as well, who is very famous from DTM, and he's now involved in the sim racing space as well. Where do you see the future of the Sim Racing Expo?
Well, this question is up to Michael Wamser, and I'm happy that we will have a contract for the next years. So he's in charge of it, but I know his plans, and it sounds very good, but I'm sure that I cannot tell you on stage, but to say, okay, we are differing and spreading out in the world is a good idea, because we don't only have the European market, we have all the markets in Asia, in North America, and so I think there's potential for more than only one Sim Racing Expo per year.
Wow, that's exclusive, I think, ladies and gentlemen. There's potential for some big moves.
Well, that there's a potential. That's nothing secret. If we're looking into it, Michael has to say.
Sign the contract for me now. Now, where is it? Well, it's a really nice pleasure to talk to you. We're going to continue this, but we're now going to start a panel, so we both need to awkwardly move over here to make some space for some other people. We've also now, I'd love to welcome to the stage here Massimo Cubeddu from Cube Controls, if that's possible. Hopefully everybody's ready. We'll find out very shortly. And also Holger Stangl from RaceRoom. So we're all going to move over to the chairs over here. There we go. Perfect. There we go. Looking beautiful. Nice strut. This is great. So we'll just have a nice little friendly chat.
Marc? Where do you want us to sit?
You can sit wherever you like, apart from on the floor. Lovely. Hope to find you all well. This panel is all about the fastest connection to your business via sim racing. Kind of want to have a discussion amongst you. I know you're all from various different areas of the space, but I want to try and get everyone talking amongst each other. Have a nice little friendly chat here. No pressure or anything like that. But the rapid growth of sim racing and the added credibility of in real life drivers becoming more and more involved, have you noticed an increase of brand participation that you would not necessarily put alongside sim racing? Has it made it easier to have brand integration?
Well, I actually think that since more and more brands actually, they know how sponsorships work in real motorsports, it's a different level on the financial side, but they see who is involved in sim racing. So at least from my perspective, I feel lots of brands actually discover that as really a way to get new access to their target group in a way, because it's motorsports enthusiasts, it's people that love driving. They do it on the computer, but absolutely no difference. The competition, the fascination of motorsports, this performance, all these things that people connect with motorsports is, in my experience, really something that brands discover for themselves to connect, engage, interact with the target group, and it really grows, and it's great.
I don't want you to fight, guys, but anyone's fine. It's all good.
Well, if we look at the big championships and competitions, and you see the reach, then it's not like 100 millions and the other esports in Asia, but it's still decent. And as Holger said, the money which is required for that awareness is really low compared to everything else in real motorsport. And so we are a service provider for the Nürburgring Endurance Championship, and especially in this championship, we see that in the off-season from mid of November until March, we have the chance by the digital platform just to say, okay, we are there. We are also there in November, in December, and so on, and also the brands, and exactly the same brands and sponsorships for the real Nürburgring Langstreckenserie Endurance Championship are involved in the digital, and they are really successful by acquiring new sponsorships. Always when I look into the numbers, I said, hey, you're doing really well, because, and that's the reason, because they have the success that many real drivers are involved, and not only the sim racers are looking the streams, but also the old motorsport community is involved.
Anything you'd like to add on?
Yeah, I think that as a hardware manufacturer, I think that also the overlapping between real motorsport and sim racing is gaining traction even in the few past years, and is no more a game, mostly is a valid training tool for most of the drivers of the sim racer drivers, and also it's not a case that some of the fastest sim racers also are doing well into real motorsport, and the other way around is also true. Most of them are also sim racer, and this is helping both sides because they are validating each other with their concept of experience and product, and is definitely getting more and more interesting to get into this market, I think. Yeah.
And a follow-up for you, Massimo. Obviously, you've got lots of massive names in terms of ambassadors for your company, and as a whole, how does that help you, broaden your market?
Yeah, it definitely helps because, drivers have their following in their country. Maybe they are hugely successful and they have lots of following. And having some key drivers as product ambassador is helping to expand business in certain areas where maybe you have difficult to reach directly with your marketing team, maybe. So it makes sense, and it is a useful tool, we can call this way, to try to expand your business and also gaining validation from them, because you are being represented by a real driver who knows his stuff. And if he likes your product, it means there is some good in it. So it's definitely super good to have this kind of partnership with them. Yeah.
The steering wheel in my simulator is better than any steering wheel I ever had in a real race car. That's for sure. And so it's true. If that fits, it's a good thing.
Yeah. Usually the feedback we got from the drivers is that, this is better than my real race drive.
It's like that.
Car. Yeah.
It's really like that.
That's the best answer you've heard all day, right?
Yeah.
That's a perfect. Yes.
This is kind of funny because I like to say that to a real driver, you can give him whichever steering wheel, whichever button you want, they are going to drive it fast, as usually. But sim racers are super picky, and it is like our mission to try to make them happy with their gear, and which is relatively expensive gear. and they are right to be very picky about it. And we are trying our best to make them happy, because we also we have some sim racer into our structure. I am one myself, a slow one, because I have no time to try.
Every single exhibitor here said, "Oh, I'm slow."
Yeah, like, perfect.
Do you run iRacing, RaceRoom? What are you on?
Yeah.
What do you run on?
Sorry?
What do you race on?
Mostly I race offline usually.
Oh, so I can't ask what your iRating is or anything like that? Okay.
No, I don't dare to put my hands or foot maybe in iRacing, because I will be wrecked by sim racer. So anyway, this still helps, because I know some needs of sim racing, being one myself, and I try to use this knowledge into the product, and make them like they try to feel the needs of the sim racer, because I know we are all driven by passion about what we do, and we try to put this into the product, into each feature, each design element. We try to make people feel I like to imagine when people grab the steering wheel for the first time, and I want them to say and to think, wow, this is good stuff, That is something that helps us keep pushing to every product release and to every new feature, integration, or device we try to put into the market. So it's mostly driven by passion, we can say. Yeah.
And for you, Holger, obviously with RaceRoom, having the exact cars from championships, RaceRoom is most famous for having like WTC, CC, having DTM, having loads of series. Now Praga, of course, the UK series coming. How important is that for the expansion of RaceRoom as a whole?
Well, as we kind of mentioned before, brands in the real motorsports, Marc just said it, we basically, with the virtual world, we can expand the real season and can make even the exposure or the time frame that brands can interact with a target group, we can double it, right? Because they are basically part of the real DTM, the real ADAC GT Masters. And then when the real season is over, the kind of thing goes in a winter sleep almost, But with the virtual world, we can just really fully expand that and, take it all through the winter. And I think that's also a great attraction for the brands that are already well established in real motorsports. But it's equally interesting, I think, for just other brands that have even nothing to do with cars, with automotive, just other brands that really, as I said before, like this feeling that, to connect their brand with that.
And I'm going to go now to esports. So how important do you feel esports is for the growth of sim racing as a whole? I love an esports competition. I love to watch them. I love to be a part of them. Even if I get knocked out first round, I just love to see like a knockout series and see the best of the best duke it out on a sim that I'm familiar with, because I'm looking at it going, oh, wow, I kind of understand to a certain extent how they're doing this, but not how they're going very fast. How important would you say esports is for the growth of it as a whole?
Well, after many years in the business, I'm skeptic, really skeptical, because I don't see sim racing as esport. For me, it's just a new discipline in real motorsport, and if we want to address the esport community, we have to do other formats. Maybe not even in a simulation, maybe something really different. But we are, as ADAC, we're really focused on sim racing as just another discipline. This is exactly the nucleus, the DNA, what sim racing is about. That it's not like just another game, just another simulation, or just another esport discipline. It's where racing drivers are involved, where you can be fast and then switch into the car and being fast. We just talk about Tim Heinemann and others. And if you are the winner of the FIFA Virtual World Championship, you don't necessarily be able to kick a ball for 10 meters. It's just something different, and That's also, for me, it's exciting. You know, I was always lucky in my career. Always find the right persons at the right spot to get a lot of money to continue my motorsport career. But we are, as ADAC, we are an association with 22 million members. And always in my life I thought it's not fair. You know, your father has to be a millionaire if you want to go to Formula One. Your father has to be ideally better a billionaire. And then you have maybe a little chance to continue in motorsport. And so for the first time in the history of motorsport, we have the possibility to share our passion, to share everything we love with many, many, many people. Okay, it's not that cheap. A simulator, high-end simulator, you're up to 8,000, 9,000 euros. But it's once you do it once. And if you sit in a racing car, I just drove the last years my old young-timer BMW E30, and every race it's about 7,000 euros. Every race. And from this perspective, I really like that it's not that everybody can feel the passion about motorsport without being that rich. And that's, for me, even more important than to be a part of this e-sport trend. And I think I have two different perspectives. One is as an active racing driver as an active sim racer. It's really a paradise. You can always drive whenever you want against real drivers at any time. So, and it's getting better and better because the technique is getting better. We see it at the SimRacing Expo this year, and the computers are getting better and everything. But on the other hand, all the brands which are getting into sim racing with a lot of expectations on reach and everything, I'm not sure if this is really healthy, because we see that motorsport is a niche and sim racing even more, and the reaches are not that you can go to Coca-Cola or someone else and say, hey, we have millions of reach. That's not the case. It's sport, and we have the possibility to integrate many, many, many people in our sport. That's for me the more important perspective. Even if I kill some of the dreams maybe here.
No, I'm fully on board. I think there's a space for sim racing to be the same as a series in real life, but I think it's very much more important to separate the two and have stuff like, this is what I've been saying for years, is sim racing. We can literally do what the hell we like. We can do whatever we want. We can make our own formats. We can make it much easier on the eye. Attention spans are, not as long as they used to be, let's say, with the invention of reels and TikToks and all that stuff. I sound so old there saying that. But trying to capture an audience's attention is more difficult than it's ever been. So I completely agree with you there. I think it does need to be separated. But there is space for both. Obviously, the expert really here for the esports side of things. What's your stance on this?
Hard question. I think, the difficulty is, generally I would have expected that races that we do in esports would be building up, it would be adding to hero building in a way. I feel that it brings that, if you look at the esports side, the high level top competition in sim racing, even though the format might be, let's say, of course, if we do ADAC GT Masters esports, there has to be some kind of link and some kind of way that you recognize again and say, there's a parallel. There is something going on in the real life on the track, and there's something happening on the virtual track, and it's like the same cars driving, the same brands get the exposure. But I just I thought this hero building that I just mentioned is something that would inspire a lot of just general people that just love the topic as a hobby. Like myself, I love to race, but I will, of course, also I would be the third one who will say I'm not that fast to compete properly. But it's really something that I would have thought, especially when we talk about exposure or reach. I do kind of agree with Marc, because I thought the real motorsports guys should be interested to also watch the virtual ADAC GT Masters or DTM, because they're watching the live races, the real races on TV. Doesn't seem so much to be the case, maybe yet. maybe, sometimes maybe it's still the thing that they would consider it more like, it's a gaming thing. But I also noticed from my experience that it was the other way around. If I remember, when we did the Mercedes AMG e-racing competition, it was something that it was always in parallel, the virtual thing with the real thing. The people that were racing always raced again one VIP DTM, Mercedes DTM driver. So I always brought a simulator into the paddock at the Mercedes booth, and there was always Dani Hunkadea, Lucas Auer. Somebody was always racing there on site in front of the Mercedes fans. And then I myself was standing there at some point, just, Dani, for example, he said, give me the keyboard, I know what to do. I didn't need to help him much because he was very accustomed with the stuff.
He's very good.
Yeah. And, so I didn't have much to do. I could watch the scenery, and there were two older guys, that they were really DTM fans, probably watching DTM ever since. And they were standing there and watching then the race, and it took them like 10 minutes. They were really discussing and, about this and that. And then they said, this isn't the real thing. For me, it was great because, they didn't notice at some point, and it took them some while to recognize, there's only Mercedes going around. So that's like, I think it still catches people if this kind of prejudice, in a way, about, it's just a game, kind of drops away. And I think if we do real, proper live stream production that is resembling really what you see on TV, kind of helps, because the races, I find them ridiculously thrilling. If you watch them, the fights, it's just insane. It's incredible.
I'm also very much the same.
So I would think that we're still kind of, also the more professional things get, that we kind of can, we catch more the interest of the general motorsport fan as a public audience in a way to be hooked and say, wow, these are cool. I want to watch these races now as well.
For you, Massimo, obviously the graphics, like Holger just said, that people are starting to get like, is that real? Is it not real? Sometimes when I watch a broadcast, but the peripherals that you're making are now also the same, right? That people are looking at going, hold on, is that from a real car or is that from a sim? Explain how difficult it is to get that right.
Yeah, it is not simple at all. Making such devices that, as I said earlier, are going to fill the needs of very high demanding sim racer is quite a complex task. And I think we have to look to both ways and start with knowledge of what works in motorsport and what works in sim racing, and try to make the two experience and overlap each other, and there is the sweet spot in between the overlapping, and this is where you need to dig into to make such good products. And the funny thing is that this is a never-ending sweet spot, because it's still evolving. Each year there are new needs by both sim racing and motorsport, because even the motorsport, of course, is evolving technologically wise, and especially lately with the electric cars. For example, you don't have anymore the gear shift paddles, but you have even more shifters on the backside that now we have to find a new name for them, because they are not shifters anymore. But the mechanism is still the same, but they are going to be used for different purposes, and is still evolving in a technologically way, and we have to keep this evolving process that is quite fast, and there is still plenty to do into this aspect. It's not just a steering wheel with a bunch of buttons in it. It's way more than that, and it's also as we like to say, a design product. And we try to push this and to have our own design language put into the devices, because I want people to feel great when they use them, But also, I want them to look at the steering wheel when the simulator is off, for example, and say, wow, this is good. For me, it works this way. It's both a user experience.
It might also be the one way that you get your wife to be convinced to leave it in the living room. It has to look good.
Yeah.
I can talk all day about this because...
Here's my AMG in the living room.
Yes. There is lots of work to do into this aspect as well, especially about the sim rig and the complete package, because no one wife wants a huge pile of metal components into the living room. So also there is lots to do and make some good furniture like sim racing rigs, maybe for example, that can be easily integrated into a modern house and can be really part of the furniture of the house itself.
And I feel when I look into many simulators here that we're making that step. All that cables you cannot see anymore. It's more compact, and it's getting more that your wife will accept it in the living room, or you have to do it like I do it. I have an office without a desk or anything, but only with a simulator in. So I'm off in the office, and then I'm working in the simulator.
And if anyone does find a wife or a husband that does accept this in the living room, just protect them at all costs, okay? You've got to protect them forever. So back to you here, Marc. How important is it for you to see the transition across sim racing and real life, them kind of crossing over for the success of not only the Sim Racing Expo, but ADAC as a series in real life?
Well, maybe we as an association, as a sporting association, have a different perspective on this. What we see is that after the Michael Schumacher karting boom in the 90s, the local clubs especially, they are losing members and members and members. And the original idea was, with that tool and with sim racing, we have something to get the young people back into the local clubs. And we succeeded. It's not the total amount, it's not like, we have 22 million members. It's not like that you have a big effect. But on the small clubs, on the regional clubs, which has from 20 to 400 members, you see an effect. The most effective is that you get young people back into the clubs and you have fresh blood and new ideas. And maybe they come with you as a marshal to a real race at the Nürburgring or wherever. And so I can say that we succeeded with this idea. In my local club, Automobile Club of Mayen, which is next to Nürburgring, we have a sim racing department with about 20 to 25 members, which is totally okay and which is fine. Well, I have to say they are not all 14 years old. Many of them are in their 50s or even in their 60s, but that's a nice thing to bring the generations in one hobby together. And but what we also see is especially all those boys and girls which are coming from kart, especially kart slalom. Kart slalom is still the most successful product and sporting discipline we have in Germany. And when they are 15, maybe they have a chance to do 2 years in auto slalom, and then nothing. We don't have any. Then we say, can you go to the VLN? You can go to GT4, but you have to have 100,000 euros, 200,000 euros. So we don't have any solution. And now we have a solution, especially for this motorsport enthusiasts, for the participants of in the local clubs of auto slalom, kart slalom. And we see that the guys and girls, they're doing everything. They're doing kart slalom, auto slalom, and sim racing. And when they came up with the idea, everything said, well, there's sim racing and there's real motorsport and they're fighting against each other. And say, forget it. They're not fighting. They're doing everything at the same time. There's no difference. And so this is really important for us. And I think it's also important for the development of the Sim Racing Expo, because you see that the teams are working with simulators even in lower level championships. And so now they have the time to come here, to look at the products and to get an idea, to get into the chat with the manufacturers, with the teams. And I think that both worlds will grow together even more, and that this is the ideal platform to get together and maybe to get friends, even that.
Holger, obviously with DTM Esports, I'm going to pinpoint that championship. and the story of Moritz Lohner. But also during the pandemic, we had the DTM Race from Home Challenge, where the real drivers came in and raced. We had Mike and Gary racing in cars they won championships in for DTM from yesteryear. How important has that been for the growth of RaceRoom? Did you notice any growth? The story of Kevin Siggy as well, winning DTM Esports now, going to get a drive moving forward. Did that help the business in RaceRoom grow?
Maybe a bit. I think that in general the move over the bridge in a way from sim to real, like we had with Tim Heinemann, like we had with Moritz Lohner, that you said now Kevin Siggy, I think is the third driver now on RaceRoom that really made it from the sim into the real life very successfully. As I said before, the word hero building, I think that in a way, or I would hope that it's something that evolves. Every other esports title has that. When you watch Counter-Strike finals, how the people are cheering, how they follow, how the lines are crazy to buy the shirt of the guys. There's like really it's a big move and support group behind these players. So in a way, I would at least hope. I cannot say how it really is. I don't have numbers or something that I know that these kind of cases would show a growth to just trigger more interest of other people to join a sim racing platform or in a RaceRoom in this case. But I think it helps. It's inspiring. This kind of moves into the real life. I mean, I think also that not everyone wants that, right? So I think if I make a poll, I would bet that not every sim racer says, yes, I would like to be in the real cockpit. Most of them might not, because it's a hobby, it's even a profession, it's something that they love to do. But I think real motorsports, as Marc mentioned a little bit, not only from the cost side, but also it's like the travel all the time. To race a whole season everywhere, to go to all these racetracks, and the whole thing you need around. It's probably also not for everyone. So I'm not sure. Maybe people can write. I don't know if there's a chat on the side. If people can, say a little bit how they feel. It would be really interesting for me to see. But I think in general, this, whether to come back to your question, not sure if it really does help to see somebody made it really from the sim to the real cockpit, because it's probably also it won't be for everyone. Marc said this. Maybe.
But Holger, that's one thing, really important thing to understand is that in real life motorsport, the currency is euros or dollars. But in sim racing, to compete at the top, it's not about euros, it's about time. And I would say that I'm not too bad in iRacing and in sim racing. But if I want to compete, I have to spend many hours. So in real life, you have to spend euros. In sim racing, you have to spend time, which is at the end also euros. And but therefore, I like the system that you are racing against people on your iRating, and so that you say, okay, if I only want to spend 3 or 4 hours a week, like me, I can have good races. And you have the same. You have the same right now. And but to say that you have to spend more in motorsport than in sim racing, I'm skeptic. But okay, you can do sim racing, but only if you are not competing to win, then you're right. Yeah. On the other hand, if you want to compete on high levels, the amount of time you have to spend it's hard, really hard.
And I saw that, like I always compared it when you do the DTM esports or the ADAC GT Masters esports. You're not, as a driver, you get to know the calendar, you know what is the field of cars available, and you can choose. In real life, you're usually part of a team, and the cockpit is fixed. You drive the Porsche, you drive the Mercedes. And the amount of time that these people put in to kind of, see with which car on all the tracks in average, with the way I drive, and my possibilities to fizzle a little bit with the setup, will give me the most success at the end if they put did it in hours, it probably I'd be not surprised if it's in.
You've got the stats of competitions and some drivers doing thousands of hot laps to be on the top of the leaderboard, which you just cannot do in real. And that's the I would say the massive positive for sim racing is you can just do as many laps as you want. You don't have to wait 2 weeks between for track time.
Just costs you the electricity, right?
Exactly that. Well, that's a struggle at the moment as well. Massimo, back to you then. I'm going to be cheeky here, okay? I'm going to try and get some information out of you. Obviously, you've just teased an announcement regarding your cooperation with Mercedes AMG, which resulted in a steering wheel for AMG GT Track Series. As we know, there is a little bit more to this partnership. What does the future hold, and can I prize any exclusives from you?
Not sure about the exclusive.
Oh, I tried.
But maybe let's see. No, maybe I can sneak something out in my speech. So, anyway, there is more to it, definitely. We are already showcasing some products that are the very first product of this cooperation. We also have the real beautiful truck series with the steering wheel that is the one of the first product of the cooperation is the real steering wheel for the truck series, and then there is also a whole line of products for sim racing, which are closely related to the truck series project because they share some design clues, some features, because it makes sense. I mean, as we say today, sim racing is gaining lots of popularity with automotive makers as well, and they are definitely investing into it, and is helping to validate sim racing to the market because manufacturers are investing into it. It means there is something good to it, definitely. And this is the first lineup of products that we are launching today. We have something in our booth that you can actually even play. There is definitely more to it. Both sim racing and maybe motorsports related into it. So is that not ending with what we have right now at the booth, but there will be something in the next 2 year definitely more to come to make sim racing fans and racing fans too happy about it, because there is a brand that they know, that they actually buy the products that are, we can say, motorsport validated in a way, and people usually love this, and is very motivating for us to be recognized as a valid player into the market as well. Yeah.
There's something massive there that you're trying to hold back, and you've said enough of nothing there, basically. So yeah, be excited, ladies and gentlemen, that's for sure. I've got one specific question for you. Expansion on RaceRoom. Is there anything in the future that we should be getting excited about, potentially? Oh, again, trying to hold it back.
No. I mean, there's always this kind of struggle. On the one hand, everyone knows internally and externally, we know what the people would like, what the RaceRoom community would like to have in terms of features and stuff. Sometimes you're tied with your possibilities. Sometimes it's a question of time. Sometimes it's just also personnel. If you don't have the person at hand or on your payroll that can do certain things, you probably wanted to mention driver swap or something. There's
That's exactly what I wanted to mention.
I read it here.
I've probably messaged you about 100 times about
it. But it's simple, because it's something that we all know we want. We also want it. I mean, we would like to do the ADAC GT Masters. If you do the virtual version of the real thing that has driver swaps, you also would like to, naturally be able to do it one-to-one. It also would help a lot with endurance. Of course, it has many good features, prospects almost, to work with it. But it's just, that's something that I'm not sure. It really depends. If someone is there who, a good network programmer, just call me later. Maybe we will be able to integrate certain things. Well, in a way, we all know that RaceRoom is also, has its years on its shoulders. Yes, we keep improving it. Things get better. We bring certain features that, you have some kind of matchmaking, that these things will evolve to some degree. Of course, we are working for a few years already, on something new that got stuck a little bit, from the management side. There were some issues that people probably were about. But it will continue. What it will be called, or if it will be just an evolution of RaceRoom, we will see. But I'm afraid it's never fast enough, right?
You just got me excited.
I always wanted it to happen, like in 1 or 2 years. It's just a tree doesn't grow overnight. But well, I mean, there is a team behind it. All these are super full-hearted race enthusiasts in our studio, and yeah, I'm looking forward to see. I don't know how long it takes, but at some point we will be ready to just talk more about what's the next step in RaceRoom.
Okay, cool. I'm not trying to get you all in trouble. I promise you that. Final question then before we wrap up. From each of your own perspective, what do you want to see in the next 12 months from sim racing? Yeah.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Well, I would say I want to see rain next week in iRacing. That would be my personal wish. But
ready for Daytona.
Ready for Daytona. No, to be honest, I think if we can continue with the positive dynamic which we got due Corona in the whole business, that would be good. And what I see is that we can keep on that. Of course, the growth is not that much like in 2020 and 21, but to keep that level would be great. Yeah, that's from my perspective. That's it. But just one point: you said that you like that in sim racing you can do as much laps as you want and practice. At this point, I have a slightly different opinion, because when I was race driver, my ability was always that I can react on situations. Like I came to 16 24-hour Nürburgring races, and 8 times I didn't know the car. And then go to the track, sit in the car, and then you have to do your job without knowing anything. And this is something, ability which is not required in sim racing due to the fact that you can do as much laps as you want. And this is something I'm missing, really. The ability to react. I don't know, not to improve improvisation is the right word.
You're spot on. I actually work for a company called VCO, and we pick a track.
That's
and
true.
They get 1 hour before the race to do which. So I agree with you. But we can do whatever we like in sim racing, right? We can change the rules, however.
That's true, because that's in my opinion that's a really important ability of a racing driver. And the second big difference, it's something to love, is when people ask me what is the main difference between sim racing and racing. It's in sim racing you can pee into your seat, but you shouldn't do it at home at your simulator. That's the most important difference between both worlds. That's it.
Absolutely. Massimo, what would you like to see in the next 12 months? Without spilling the beans.
I'm trying to think where to start with this because I mean I can talk at least regarding the company. There is some huge issue about mostly making the product easily available to the public. This is one of the biggest issues we are trying to overcome with, and really important also the hardware sector as well. Yes, and maybe platform or software-wise, I can't answer that because I'm not really into the sim racing as really racing by myself lately. So that is no idea about this, to be honest. But for sure there is something good coming, and I will appreciate that.
Well, it's difficult a little bit, in which direction you meant the question, but my expectation, well, in a way you don't have any. You just, with an exciteful feeling, you're looking into the future and see what's coming and how it continues to evolve. If you've seen all these years, where we started, when we did the first events, when we kind of put this whole topic sim racing on stage, give it wide exposure to people that have never heard or seen it before. But I think, as he said, in a way we do a lot of things to excite people. It's a passion that we share, and we just want to do our best and improve in any way possible, within our capabilities, for just people to have fun. I mean, have fun, go there, find any time you want to race, go to the servers, find other people that are, on an equal skill level, and in a way just have fun and share that kind of passion for driving a race car. Where it leads us, let's see.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of the expo.